Alright, we're live. Let us know if you guys can hear us.
So what do you think? Sound good? Let us know.
Sound and video are good.
Awesome. So if you don't recognize the voice, that is Tim Shrek doing the stream today because Max is out. And so he may pick some different questions. Maybe he won't pick you. It won't be personal, certainly, because he doesn't do this a lot.
Hey guys.
So, Friday, August 3rd, first week of beta week. So, the first weekday week of beta has come to an end. We are testing. We've been testing with alpha and beta. Well, beta 1s at least, most of the day. We'll be doing a test tomorrow, which of course is Saturday, at 1 o'clock, starting at 1 Eastern Time, until 4 o'clock Eastern Time. We will post this on the forums. We will send out an email. We will also have it in the schedule that you folks should all have. So, yep, tomorrow, 3 more hours, open to beta 1 and alpha and IT. So, let's recap. This week, we opened up in beta 1. Without a doubt, a really smooth beta 1 launch. We had a couple issues. Nothing like misconfiguring a switch to screw up your beta. But fortunately, once we figured that out, everything ran great. We had some issues with our chat server. Made some changes. That's running great. What's going to happen on Saturday? I don't know. Depends on how many of you show up. We peaked at 550 on Tuesday. We'll see how many come to the fun and frolic tomorrow. I will be there. I will be here, actually. I may stream a bit while I'm here, but setting up a PC, getting some other things done, so I'm not sure I will. But I'll certainly be in there with you all to play and test the game. Over the last week, we've checked in a version that has 67 changes to it. That's a lot of changes for us to put into a version. Though, you know, when we ran it, we were expecting things to go boom. They did actually not go boom. The version was very solid. We cherry-picked about 8 or 10 of the changes from that list over to the build we've been testing today on Prep and Wormling. And so far that looks good. Next week we'll look at the change list, look at what's in there, and most likely have another build that we will test during the week, just as we did this week, and then have another weekend test this coming Saturday. For all you folks who've been in the test, especially you new backers, thanks for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed it. We will keep doing this until the game launches. So, you know, for those I know who have expressed some concern that, hey, you know, we thought you would test more, we've tried to be really clear about saying when tests will occur. They will certainly occur almost every weekend. As we get into the different stages of beta, we're only in the first. We will up the time that the servers will be open on the weekends, and then by the time we're in beta 3, we will be close to what would be considered live conditions. We expect beta 3 to be the shortest of the 3 beta stages, with beta 1 probably being the longest. What else from this week? That's it. I mean, we've all been kind of heads down, focused on everything from making sure the code works, to fixing code that doesn't work, to writing documents. Ben wrote a great piece, for example, on how to play the Black Knight. That is on our forums. You can find it. It's not hidden. It's not hard to find. You just have to go to the Beta 1 feedback and suggestions forum, or thread within the Beta 1 forum, and you'll see the document there. Ben is working on other documents. I'm in the process of updating the crafting document to make it a little bit easier for people who actually take the time to read it, to understand what's going on. Yeah. Tim is laughing, and he can have a contagious laugh. But the fact is, God, folks, please, if you're hearing this message and you want to play a crafter, please, 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 please read the crafting doc that's in the crafting guide that's in the Beta 1 manual. This new doc that I'm editing will have even more stuff in it, but please read. It's a short, the manual is long, but the crafting part is short, and you really need to do that before you come into the game, unless you have read something else about it, because it is not easy to understand until you see how everything fits together. And from what I've seen from our crafters, as well as my own playtime, once you understand how it all works, it actually fits together nicely and can be quite intuitive once you understand how everything is supposed to work, while keeping in mind that this is a Beta 1 game, not a Beta 2, not a Beta 3, not a beta game in the in the modern sense, as opposed to the traditional sense. This is unfinished, we're unpolished. For those of you who bought a tier in the last, say, 72 hours, you've seen that warning that I put up before anybody can get to buy anything for the game, reminding you that, yes, this is indeed an old school Beta 1 game. So, having said all that, again, it's been just a great week that has only gotten better as the week goes on. We fixed, pretty sure, we have fixed one of the major bugs that was causing crashes. We fixed a whole bunch of other bugs. And again, just great. You know, there's some weeks where I don't have anything to talk about in terms of anything new. And sometimes all I can say is, yeah, everything went great. And yeah, everything went great. And so rather than keep saying that, let's go to the questions. So it's about 4:08. Certainly we can go to 5 o'clock.
Okay, there are some questions at us, guys. Sacrix got out there quick. We'll throw him a bone. Is there more to the ability builder being shut down rather than just to streamline the open of Beta 1 with VFX and animations? Have you decided to change the ability builder or scale it back? What are you feeling about it overall?
Oh my God, Sacrix, you did it. You actually asked a question that is 180 degrees removed from the truth. So, well done. You know, that would be counted under conspiracy theories, and that's great. I'm sorry, I don't have my tinfoil hat right now while I'm answering it, but dude, really, come on. You and I have exchanged exchanges on Discord, on forums. If there was anything even partially sneaky going on, it would be so out of character for me to be just an incredibly rare event. No, nothing is going on. We told you why the ability builder, we told all of you why the ability builder is not in there. There's nothing. We haven't changed a single thing. Not a single thing about the plan to use the ability builder. Oh my God. No, you haven't. The truth is indeed out there, Sacrix. And it's the same truth I've been saying for now years. The ability system is what we are going with. The ability crafting system is what we're going with. Nothing has changed in that regard. It was faster and easier for us to get this up and running. It allowed us, as I've said, to make it easier for people to understand, to make it easier for people to do what we needed them to do, including you, in combat, without having to worry about all the things that you're going to have to worry about when you build out a character. If you look at all the different classes you can play, and granted it's only 9, but on the other hand, when you look at the whole idea of saying, well, you're only starting with 9 classes as opposed to what a lot of MMOs have started with, that's not too bad. And if you look at the different abilities, you look at how they function, If you look at the Banes and Boons, if you look at the stat system, if you read Ben's document, you can see how much of a system is already there. So over the next few months, we are going to be getting some things in place, both for the ability system and for the stats and for armor and weapons and so many things that are going to be changing in terms of what you see now, that I think you guys and gals are going to love what you see. Like we've said right from the beginning of this beta, and frankly even before, the abilities that are in there are just placeholders. They're to test everything from slows to poisons, to heat-seeking missiles, to shouts. Yes, it feels like, wow, that's all you have. There's actually a lot of different components there. If you look across the 9 classes. And if you look at how important already the Banes and Boons are. One of the things that was, I think, eye-opening for people when we were chatting in the game was a number of old, I don't want to say old-timers, but by now I guess that's a fair way of, labeling them, who were like, well, I didn't bother with, my stats, and I didn't bother with my, B&Bs, and I keep getting killed. Yes, that's exactly what should happen right now. Read Ben's document, see how many systems have been hooked up, how many things are already important, and I think you'll see just, not only how robust the system is now, but how much more robust it will be when we put ability crafting back in.
Let's see. Mr. Peace 84 asks, which feature that is not in the game yet are you the most worried about performance-wise?
Worried. Right now, none. I mean, honestly, the closest I can come to a feature that I'd be worried about would be, can we scale the battles real-time to 3,000 with building destruction and everything else turned on. I'm not worried about building destruction. We actually had a great meeting this morning. We were talking about both the 30-day and the 90-day plan, and that was one of the things, of course, we discussed. No, I feel really good about that. There's nothing. I mean, honestly, we're doing almost all of the really hard things we're doing, we're already doing. Or have to do. We're already doing. Do we have to do some of them better? Sure, absolutely. One of the things that I mentioned just before, the stats system. We need to speed up some of the calculations that are happening when combat's going on, for example. So there's a lot of things that we need to iterate on, but right now, the mere fact that we've already shown 750 players plus, arcs running around in a battle with high frame rate, with low, as I call it, developer-induced lag, shows that we can do just what we said we would do back in 2013. We said 500. We can do way more than that already.
I'll try and talk a little bit louder. Me Huge said he's having trouble hearing me. Odilvik asks on behalf of Hex, if a group that owns a plot goes inactive, how long before that plot becomes available again, barring no one claiming it?
So that'll depend on a lot of factors. Things like, first, what's there? So if you just mean a plain old empty plot, that will go, fairly quickly, even in the live game. You're certainly not talking months for that. On the other hand, if it is built upon, if it has stabilizers there, then it's going to decay much slower.
Sacrix wants it to be clear he wasn't trying to be shady, he just wanted some of your insights into it.
Oh, come on, Sacrix. You were also, fishing to see if maybe there was something else there. No hard feelings, but dude, you know me. If I thought there was an issue, even a potential issue in the short term, I would talk about it, because I've already talked about things like the body part system, the body part targeting system going away. If that doesn't work well during beta 1, we'll just scrap it. And it would be the same thing for ability crafting. I'll scrap that in a heartbeat if it doesn't work well. I don't care. The goal here is not to say, oh, look at these cool things we're doing, and that's what matters. No, what matters is making a great game. If we have great components, if we have cool components, if we have BSC components in it, fantastic. On the other hand, if it's not a great game, who cares what the components are? So, no, man, I would have given you guys a big warning about that, as I have with the body part system.
Epsilon QC asks, when is Beta 2?
After Beta 1. Honestly, we don't know. We're not even putting a date on it, because what's most important now is focusing on Beta 1, is getting these classes in, getting the ability system in, getting building destruction in, getting the 64-bit client done. So many things that are more important than trying to set a date now for Beta 2, because that's not, in the scheme of things, Beta 2 is nowhere near as important as Beta 1. It's sort of like the middle book or middle film of a trilogy. It's this kind of unloved step in between 1 and 2. 1 is the one that matters, because we've transitioned from spending more time on tech than anything else. As you've seen already, and you'll see in the coming months, more and more game stuff is going to be going in. That's the important bit. Beta 2, I don't want to say there's no excitement around it, because it'll be cool that we transition to the next stage, but not like going from alpha to beta.
Hellweir asks, Mark, could you talk a bit about how much death is going to sting in the finished game? Also, will death end up being applied equally to different playstyles, or will it mostly be trivial to some and, say, will composed groups and a burden to others, as some on the forum seem to believe and desire?
So, death has to sting. I mean, that's just the bottom line. If death is meaningless, if you can, always be rezzed instantly, then you have the problem of certain other games where, the battles that you engage in, the time you spend, setting up for the battles and then going through the battles becomes meaningless. So death is going to sting. Now, is it going to be the sort of, old school death sting like permadeath? Of course not. Is it going to be the kind of death sting where you have always a long corpse run and lose your stuff? No, that's not. That's punitive. We're not trying to make death punitive in that sense, but it is supposed to sting. It's supposed to have an effect on combat. So if you're staging a raid and you're on I don't know, 4:30 in the morning, and you're hitting a keep, and a bunch of your folks die, should you immediately be able to come back perfectly healthy, like nothing happened? The answer is no. On the other hand, do we want to put you in a position where, hey, we just lost a guy, so now all the planning, all the setup is worthless? No, because that's equally stupid. So what we're going for is something in between, where, look, death is part of this game, obviously. A penalty of some kind needs to be applied. A penalty that is fair for both the attackers and the defenders. Because, you need people to defend, just as you need people to attack. So it's going to be that kind of balance. Don't expect to see anything super harsh, but also expect to be something that is built around the concept of our sieges must matter. If the sieges don't matter, then this game won't succeed, because sieges are important. So I hope that is a good enough answer for now.
Odelvik asks on behalf of Tennis, when the NDA drops, will the forums become viewable to non-backers?
I think you're talking about two different NDAs, the streaming NDA versus forum NDA. I don't see any great reason to have our forums open to view. It costs us additional money, and we're not really using the forums to recruit people. That's what videos, obviously, these days are for. If somebody can make a really strong argument as to why, we should do that, I'd think about it. I just don't see any big reason for it. Being part of our forums, being part of the community that's building the game is a good thing. You get to have that opportunity. And one can argue, I am sure, that, hey, by having the forums open, MJ, even if some of them are open, you might be able to recruit some additional players. Yeah, there's truth in there. But on the other hand, we have videos. We have other things that we talked about today that could help do that when we're ready. We're just not ready. I was asked just a few minutes ago, well, a little bit more than that at this point, in the game chat, why there aren't a lot of Beta 1 interviews, with Camelot Unchained. Well, it's very simple. I didn't ask anyone to do an interview. I wasn't looking to do any, hey, we got to have this big interview now that we're in Beta 1, because it's just Beta 1. Since we can't, put out videos, since we're under an NDA, it seemed a bit disingenuous to have those kind of interviews at this point. So, when we're ready to turn off or turn down the NDA, then we'll be happy to talk to folks about it. And we'll be, I am sure, going to a lot of people, and as we do an actual press release, more will be coming to us. But this was a low-key this was a low-key day for us. No press release, no, real advance notice given to anyone. We just, gave them like a day ahead, just as, hey, guess, by the way, we're going to launch. Because, again, we weren't ready for the hype. I promised you all that when we went into development for this game, that I wasn't going to jump on the hype train, wasn't going to do the things we did with Warhammer, to build buzz, because we haven't earned it. So, kind of sticking with that philosophy.
Darrow10 asks, what goals would need accomplished to transition between beta stages? For example, Beta 1, Beta 2, Beta 2, Beta 3.
Sure, from Beta 1 to Beta 2, what I'd be shooting for is all launch classes in. Obviously building destruction in, working economy, things like that. Beta 3 to me is pretty much the live game with tests with different, say, crafting times, different progression times, different things that, we want to test, I don't know, beforehand in terms of before launch. At that point, we have to be, you don't need to be 100% feature complete because, there'll always be things that you're working on, there'll be things that'll have bugs, and if you really wait till you're feature complete and everything else complete, then you have a complete game, and you should probably launch at that point. So, there's a lot of different things. For me, the number one and two things that we have to do is building destruction. That has to be in really good shape, and the classes have to be not finished, but in good shape, meaning that you can play all of them, we have the direction that we're going, and we see that what we've laid out is the sensible way to do things. That's what we're going to be looking for before Beta 2.
Odilvik asks on behalf of Tennis, can you talk about how a support bard targeting and interactions might work? I hope more interesting than just an aura or a button to target all of your group in range.
Yeah, we'll talk about that another time. That is something that Ben should be here for. Will it be boring and standard, or standard and boring, or standard and pores? No, we certainly don't want to do that. So hopefully you like what we end up with.
Zertan asks, along with customizing abilities, do you foresee any systems in place for the players to change the FX, such as color?
Oh yeah, we've already said we're going to have a dyeing system. So yeah, absolutely.
Nighty Doc asks, I remember reading that part of the telemetry would be available publicly through an API. Is this still something you want to do? And if yes, is this something to expect during Beta 1?
Depending on how you want to define telemetry, right? we're going to be putting out a lot of data for you folks. There'll be some things we won't be putting out for you folks, of course, but we're going to be giving you guys a lot of info. So depending on exactly what you're looking for, the answer might be yes, but it could also be no. So if you want to be more specific over the next 30 minutes with a question, I'll be happy to talk about it.
Jack Mode asks, will ability crafting include crowd control, or will crowd control be standardized for certain classes across the realms?
Oh no, every part of your character's ability to take part in combat, as well as crafting, is meant to be run through the ability crafter. Other than stuff like Banes and Boons.
Slitherix asks, how much of a priority is optimization for mid-tier machines during Beta 1?
Somewhat, and it's not a terribly good answer, but fortunately it's the truth. So optimizing performance is something we're always looking to do, even though we don't necessarily do it. So if we see that there are issues with things, we mark them down, and then eventually we get to them. Over the next 30 days, for example, we're going to be doing things to improve the lighting, to improve the issues we were seeing with shadows and always going dark, looking at improving the sky. So there's a lot of things that are on the plate already to work on over 30 days, and there'll be more after that. So will it happen during Beta 1? Absolutely. Will it happen at the beginning versus the middle versus the end? Don't know. Will it happen the same for AMD cards versus NVIDIA cards? Honestly, right now, I don't know. We're trying to recruit, as usual, other people to the company, and we're actually going to hopefully have a job rec up on Monday for a mid-level graphically focused engineer. So if we get someone like that, we'll maybe be able to speed up some of that kind of work, things that you don't have to delegate, or you want to delegate to that level engineer versus have Andrew or George or Dave work on it. So a lot of the timing depends on how we can recruit other folks to join the team.
_mustache asks, this may have been asked before, so please forgive me. In Daok with spellcrafting, you ran the risk of blowing yourself up when applying stones to someone's gear. Can we expect to see some dangerous risks like that with crafting in CU?
Yeah, I did like that. Are there going to be risks when you do things like that? Yes, there will be. We've said right from the beginning that there is a risk and reward system. There is a bit of RNG. There's special results, not just like in Daok, but like in my MUDs as well. So yes, expect something like that. With the attempt at great power, to paraphrase an often used cliche, comes great responsibility. In this case, the responsibility to possibly go boom.
There's a handful of questions about body parts, and I know you've touched on it a little bit, but I'll ask this one and you do your thing. Carlitos Way 1337 asks, when are you going to remove the body part system, and what is your backup? What were you hoping to gain from the system?
Well, I haven't said I'm going to remove it yet. So yeah, that's the first thing. What was I hoping to gain, and still am hoping to gain? Give you folks a bit more freedom to play. It's not it's nothing more complicated than allowing players who really know how to play the game, who understand the importance of where to put the most armor, and as well as players who know and want to pay enough attention to what's going on with their target that they can look for weak spots. They can work in groups, whether it's a small group or large group combat, to try to target certain areas of their antagonists. So that's what I was hoping to do, and I still am, quite frankly. What would we do if we removed it? We would just have a normal, well, maybe not totally trite and cliched, but we'd replace it with something that would be more familiar to people than the body part targeting system.
Odilvik, there was another question from Gunnar about siege engines. Could you find that for me again and ask it again? Let's see. Pest asks, is there any possibility that unknown classes or races will be introduced at game at launch without having all of the 4 non-guaranteed classes, Stealthers, Scouts, Shifters, and Spirit Mages in as well?
So races, yes, because races, our ability to do races has no effect on classes. Classes, no. The idea of slowing down a known class just to put in another one, that would be unfair. So no, we wouldn't do that. But race, certainly. I mean, and you say unknown, don't forget that we said right from the beginning we're going to be introducing a lot of races, and not all of them might make it, or not all of them will make it to live. So, don't worry about that answer, because it's not going to affect classes at all. But no, I have no intention of slowing down the introduction of the post-launch classes, because I want to see them in the game. I'd like to speed them up if I can. But we've said before that we're not going to do anything to slow down their introduction, and I'm not going to do anything to speed up their introduction. That could also mean that we slow down other things, because that ends up delaying the launch, and we're not going to do that.
Odilvik asks on behalf of Gunnar, with the introduction of Siege to the game, will builders be able to construct siege towers or gateways with oil holes, etc., traps in the walls and ground, and all that fun stuff?
That's the plan. We want crafters to play a role during Siege. We've said that, and that's one of the ways that they'll be able to do that.
Gunnar wants to know about PvE. Will there be giant monsters to raid? Can we slay a dragon to capture its spirit to restore a golem to our side and then have it fight for us, or kill a titan for rare crafting mats? Will monsters spawn when you mine too much, or will creatures attack your caravans and ships? Are builders and crafters back home really 100% safe from all combat?
There's a few questions there. So let's go to the last one, because that's easy. Yes, if you're in a safe city, you're safe. That's the thing. We've been very clear about that. The safe cities are safe. They're on a separate island. They cannot be attacked. I know some people have objected to that, but I know another game that did the same thing, more than one. So yes, safe cities are safe cities. The rest of the world, that's up to you all. Go out and build, go out and raid, go out and destroy. That's your fun. But the safe cities have to stay safe. Have to stay safe. Stay safe. It's been a long week. Anyway, and all the questions about NPCs. So, NPCs are part of this game. They have to be. We've said this from the beginning. We have guards. That means we have to have AI. We have animals that have to be slaughtered. That means we have to have animals. We have the depths. That means we have to have creatures in the depths, because otherwise there's no danger once other than other players in there. So is there going to be that kind of PvE? Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. We've said that from the beginning. The big difference here, the most important takeaway from here, is that you don't level from killing them. That's the big thing. Do you get realm rewards? Yes. Do you level your skills? No. That's the difference. You have to have things like NPCs. You can't have this kind of game without it. But they cannot be used to level up your character. So, that's really all I need to say.
Are we going to be able to loot people when we kill them? Old school MMOs were the best because you had a chance of losing or looting great items.
So we've been very clear about this as well, that we're going to have a system where, yes, you can get stuff from your enemy. Can you lose stuff as a player? We've also said the answer to that is no. Not the item itself, We have talked about losing the soul. That is indeed part of what you can lose. There'll be other things that you could possibly lose as well. But the idea of losing a great item, we're just not doing that in this game. I don't have a problem with it, but we're not doing it in this game.
Sakric asks, last week you said we're not at the point to even consider removing the body part system. Could you explain when is a good time for that debate to decide?
Oh, well, certainly before beta 2. The whole point, well, sorry, because it's not that saying what I was about to say would be mostly true, but not 100% true, so I don't want to say it. So one of the things that we want to do before, maybe even before the ability crafting system is finished, is have a good feeling about the body part system. So with the abilities we have now, and abilities we can add, or abilities we can change, we can begin to test that a little more thoroughly. Is it simply too annoying to do that? We could try different interfaces to allow you folks to do what you would be doing other than the crafting itself with abilities during beta 1, and we see if we like it. So this is going to happen. It's got to happen before beta 2, because if we go into beta 2 and we're not sure about the body part system, we've done something really stupid. I mean, just epically stupid, because by then the classes are in. The proper time for the debate is when we start asking you folks to start focusing on it during testing. If you want to talk about it on the forums, you can go ahead and do that now. I don't, that's up to you all. But the time that we ask you to, the best time, is when we start giving you the ability to do things that come as close as possible to how the body part system will work in combat. Because the crafting bit, that's nothing. That's a few extra minutes, potentially. But the real test is, how does it feel when you're playing, for a 2-hour session and you've spent a lot of time focusing on body parts? Is that fun? If it's not fun, out it goes.
Wolf Power asks, will there be GM police working around the clock to keep the game clean from nonsense made by people with cube, like giant messages written in giant blocks or profanities?
Sure, of course. That's what customer service is supposed to be once we go live. Beforehand, no, not a chance. We don't want to spend the money on that. It's not necessary. We'll probably have some volunteers that can help us. But once we go live, absolutely. And yes, we do and will, as I've also said, not be strict in the sense of, well, everything has got to conform with a certain sense of architectural style. But we will be strict about some things that you cannot do. So we'll see how that shakes out.
Cinti TV asks, what's the reason for outsourcing work? Why not hire people and get it done in office rather than outsourcing?
Speed. It's actually, if you find the right company to work with, it's faster to outsource than it is to insource, essentially. Now, if we could get the people here, sure, we might consider it, but we'll just see how it goes. For us, the speed is important. We do want to hit the dates that we've talked about, and whatever gets us there is the best way to do things. Gets us there the fastest with the same quality.
Real Life Gabo asks how your back is doing.
Good. Thank you. I think I'm past that ridiculous round that I went through. Been losing weight, which is good. Still have a long way to go, but I've dropped a bunch so far, and so hopefully that'll continue.
Zertan asks, do we know how much or how little racial stats, banes, and boons are going to impact the classes?
Well, if you read the document on the forums, you could see that it's a big deal already. To me, racial B&Bs and potential unique abilities and stats If they don't matter, why the hell did you bother? I mean, it's really simple, right? You know, if they're mostly irrelevant, then they were a waste of time and effort. No, these things are meant to have an impact on your character. That's why we give you these choices. We've said this from the beginning. I mean, you all know the phrase, choices matter. So you folks will have a chance to truly customize your characters in the ways that are important, well, at least to most of us. The folks who are interested in the RPG aspect, really the idea of an old school game where stats do matter, where things like Banes and Boons do matter. That's what we're making, and that, you know, we're going to stick to, because first of all, I love that kind of system. I love the customability that it gives you, customization ability it gives you folks. I love the choices you have to make. Yeah, sometimes they're hard choices. All the better. That's what this game is about. So, you know, don't expect to see a lot of fluff in terms of those things in the game. Expect it to be things that do affect your character in meaningful ways. And like I said, if you haven't read Ben's document, please go to the forums and read it. It is important.
Tildor asks, what's the plan for the next few months? Do you have concrete things you want to implement design, combat-wise, for the next X weeks or months?
Absolutely. We were talking about that today. Today was the kickoff of the 30 to 90 set of meetings we'll be having. We focused mainly on the 30 days. So things like, again, improvements to the lighting model. We're looking to speed up, not slow down. Shocking. The implementation of the 64-bit client. We're looking to get the introduction of Coherent as our UI, replacing Ceph. There are a whole bunch of things that we are looking to do, far more than I think some of you folks might have expected that we're looking to do in the short term. These are really important things. Again, the 64-bit client is a huge step for us, because not only does it allow us to make sure to implement Coherent, but it allows us to ensure that we get access to all the memory on your machine and on your video card, so we can do great and terrible things with it, and we will. You know, we're going to take advantage of everything we can get to make this game look better, to make it run better, to add things to it that no way I would have said that we could have done in 2013. So, you know, that's going to be a big deal for us, and we are absolutely looking forward to doing it.
Action Pigeon asks, are there any plans to provide concise updates which bullet point what's being changed or worked on and how it's changed for people who don't have a lot of time to dig around in the forums? Something like a list or a video highlighting these things.
You mean the things that we do every Friday? We do this, you know, not this, because this is obviously long, but every Friday we put up an update. That update lists the top 10 of things. We have the user stories updates. So yeah, we're going to keep putting out the information. The forums are not the best place to look and gather all that different intel. Frankly, that would drive you mad unless you go to the top 10 thread. So yeah, just look at our top 10 updates, look at our user stories. We have zero intention of putting out less information about what we're doing. So it's all out there, and we think it's in a good, fairly good way of communicating it. Maybe there's a better way. I mean, I love user stories, but, you know, as always, your mileage may vary. But, you know, we'll see. Somebody has a better plan, I'm happy to implement. But it's really all about continuing to get this kind of information out to you folks, so you know, just as always, everything we're working on.
Jack Mode asks, is there a plan for crowd control, diminishing returns and immunity timers? Will there be a limit to the amount of hots and dots you can stack?
Yes. I mean, we have to have crowd control. We said this right from the beginning. Crowd control is important to this game. because we want to be able to control the Zergs. And if you don't have CC, there is very little way for a very small group to do any significant amount of damage to a, let's just say, one smart group versus another smart group. But crowd control, smart use of it, the right configuration of the Zerg busting group, certainly better play by the smaller group. You need crowd control. You need something. In terms of the hots and dots, Ben and I have talked about that in the past. I've talked about it here as well. I'm not a big believer in unlimited hots and dots on a character. I think that's a problem, especially if you look at it from the perspective of, other games where if you didn't get properly geared up in terms of, or buffed up, before you, in gear 2 actually, before you went out, people didn't want to go out. So, we want to try to restrict that. We don't want to make it as important for you to get properly buffed before you go out and, engage in RVR. I think that takes some of the fun out of it. It also makes more for a waste of time, simply because you're always waiting for, the right support class to come and, buff you. But, we'll see. That's just my plan now. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, it's not like changing that is a big deal.
Gladius88 asks, what is the maximum latency needed to play this game? Korean MMOs have a terrible system where lower latency equals winning, which means those on different continents just are at a severe disadvantage.
Oh, gosh. Well, you could ask the people in Twitch chat. I know a lot of them are in our beta, and I know a whole bunch of them are from Europe. Can I say that it is exactly the same playing from Virginia on a Virginia-based server as it is playing from somewhere, deep within the EU? Of course not. But I also know that folks from the EU are doing a lot of ass-kicking in the game right now, so I don't think that's a problem. Now, how far out can we go? Andrew's plan and mine has been right from the beginning that we can support people from anywhere in Europe. You still have to have a decent connection because, without going into this, so you probably know the answer already, it's not just where you are, but how long it takes you to get from where you are to us. And it's not just, the latency, drop packets, all sorts of stuff can certainly affect your gameplay experience. But our plan has certainly been to absolutely ensure that anyone can play this game from anywhere, with that caveat, in Europe. We said that we want to make it playable as well. Not that I would want to run our servers for the folks in Asia out of here, but in theory that you could still play the game. But that really depends on where you're calling in from and how long, of course, it took you to get here. But we'll see. Certainly I can say without any fear of hesitation, or fear of being wrong, playing from Europe to here is not an issue. And the same would be true for, MENA. It would be true from Latin America, from, obviously the great nation of Canada. Canadian jokes. I'm joking, right? Anyway. Etc. So I think you'll, if you haven't been in already and you're calling in from certainly anywhere in those places, I think you'll be very pleased with what you've seen so far, and we're going to get better at it. One of the things we're also going to be doing is opening up European servers. We've said that as well, that it is up to our backers, that if backers say we really do want European servers as well as North American, we will be more than happy to open European servers. If all of our backers say no, we still want to play with the North American servers, fantastic.
How long did you want to run this for, so I know when to keep
10 minutes. 10 more minutes.
Okay. Wolf Power asks, I'm not sure if I heard you right. You just said one would require good buffs to go out in RVR. Is this going to be a repeat of the buff bot army?
No, I said the exact opposite. You didn't hear me right. I said that we don't want that. That the question was, can we have unlimited hots and dots? And so if somebody can be super buffed up, have unlimited buffs on you before you go out, that means you have to have, the buffs before you go out, because otherwise you're at a big disadvantage. No, let me say it again very clearly. We do not want people to feel that they either have to have a buff bot or they have to have every buff that you can possibly get from support classes on their character before going out.
And sort of to add on to this, anybody who's been in Beta 1, we already have caps on several of the hots and dots, and there is some immunities already happening on CC.
Yep.
Let's see here. Hellweir asks, in the Builders tier, I'm sort of committed. It talks about unique realm-specific textures. How does that work? Isn't how our equipment appears related to what a crafter made it look like?
Oh, absolutely. And it's got to work for crafting as well. So it's the same system. It's the idea that, you're going to get things that are specific for your realm, whether they're made by the crafter or they're made by, by us that we want to make. And made by us, meaning we created them and put them on some starting armor. Because after that, we just don't care. That's up to you all to make the armor. So I don't know if that explains what you're looking for, but the idea is, yes, when you get that tier, you're going to get some special textures that won't be available to everybody, and the crafter would obviously have to be able to use them as well. That does not mean they have to have that tier, but it means that if you got it, you couldn't have that special texture. It wouldn't work.
Tilder asks, is there an ETA regarding the ability builder? Didn't we delay Beta 1 for the purpose for this long?
No. So we delayed Beta 1 initially because of that. That is correct. But we delayed Beta 1 the last time because we just weren't, ready because of testing. The ability builder going back in will go back in when we're sure that all the components that we need to make it work are in and working. This way we're able to get a lot of abilities in that use those components, that can test them, allows us to iterate on things, and when we're sure that when we turn ability building back on, that everything works in theory the way that it needs to, then we'll be happy to turn it back on.
Prime Grimrod TV says, longtime fan mark, been playing your game since Mythic pre-Dayoc. Is there a projected release, and will there be a hard release or a soft release?
Sorry. So 5-minute week. I started to say something and then, of course, choked. 5-minute warning, folks. So hard release versus a soft release. So the plan is right now, the harder release of winter, 2019. Same thing we've been saying. In terms of could there be a soft launch, like an early access, we've said to date that that's not part of the plan. Could that change? Possibly. I mean, only because I haven't really thought about it much. But the plan is still just to do a hard release. If, on the other hand, you're thinking a softer launch in the sense of a more MVP, no, that is not in the plan whatsoever. Zero chance right now of that happening. We've been waiting this long to do and put out this game. You folks deserve a finished product. So, if I misunderstood, given the time, ask me next week. Thanks for your support, especially of the old Mythic games. We made some fun games, for a tiny studio that was self-funded, and it's a shame that they're not still around, though improved versions, given the time, of course.
Ladyballs asks, current MMOs get boring because there aren't things to fight for in the day-to-day. What will be implemented to keep day-to-day PvP enjoyable and meaningful aside from access to the Realm Dungeon in the center?
So a lot of things, and maybe this is a good question to end on. We'll see how long I, go with this. So, what makes, PvP fun? Well, certainly killing other players is fun. You know, if you could take their stuff, that would be more fun. But I've talked about that, initially. Many PvP games or RVR games have, of course, been focused on destroying things that are not yours. Yes, it's your keep, sort of. It's your side's keep, but it's not your keep. Oh yeah, this other thing, whatever it is, was taken, but it wasn't yours. In this one, you get to take other people's stuff. You get to burn it down. You get to take over their mines, and in some cases, it is actually their mines. You get to take over their towns. You get to, strip materials from them. So part of that is going to be fulfilling. We hope the combat system, whether it's the crafting element of the ability system or just the different choices you're going to have, are going to keep things more interesting. We think that depths will certainly keep you and keep players coming back for more. It is not intended. Darkness Falls, to obviously draw the analogy with Daok, was great. It was fabulous. We think we can do better this time. So we think that's going to play a role. The fact that in this game, everything that you do in this game, and this is true whether you're a crafter or you're a combatant, everything you do contributes to what you get from your king. So if you want to have a bigger house, if you want to have a bigger plot, if you want to have other rewards that come from being more successful in the game, it's not just an item in a tome. Because as great as that is, there's also other things that we can give you folks. So we hope that and some other ideas I've been kicking around will keep you coming back for more. At the end of the day, though, it's still about the challenge. Has our game delivered a combat system that is fun enough and not a pain in the ass, which obviously some folks are worried about with things like body part targeting, to keep you coming back? And so, without going into extender packs, without going into additional content, I think that those are the things that will absolutely keep you coming back. And if things go the way I hope, as well as the bonds that you make with other players, just as they did, people did for Daok or even Warhammer, or back in Air Warrior, from Kesmai, which was the progenitor of the Tri-Realm game, as I've said for multiple decades now, should keep you coming back. So there are a lot of different things. We think that the core systems and mechanics in place will keep you coming back for a while, and then it's up to us to do what we've said in terms of extender packs, in terms of new races, new classes, new mechanics. And if we can do that, then we'll have a game that you will want to come back to, not just for weeks at a time, but months at a time. And even better, if we've really done our job well, a game that you will want to stay with for a very long time, without major interruption. Everyone needs a break, from whatever game they're playing. But we hope that what we'll be doing will keep those breaks to a minimum and keep you around just as Daok did for a long time. So great last question. Thank you very much. With that, it's 5 o'clock, and so I will say, as always, thank you all for coming by. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your patience. We're in beta. Things are going great. We will be having a test again. We will be having a test at 1 o'clock tomorrow. It will last 3 hours, and then we'll shut it down. It will be mostly the same build you folks saw on Tuesday and have been playing today. There's a whole bunch of improvements to things that weren't going right, and some that were going wrong, quite wrong. Unfortunately, in the beta test, the first beta test, but we think it's a good candidate. We think it's going to work quite just fine up to 500 some odd players, because we haven't gotten more than 500 players. So we don't know what's going to happen when we get, if we get more than that. We'll see. Hopefully we will. And we hope you enjoy it. Again, we thank you for your support. Have a great and safe weekend, everybody. And I will, next week, yes, I will be here. So I will definitely see you all next week.
Thanks, guys. See you soon.